Little things like brushing our teeth to calling someone on the phone are all thanks to scientific discovery. But what if an important finding was kept a secret from the general public and caused people to die? This is what happened to radium during World War I. Radium was a newly discovered element that was used in a variety of everyday products due to its initially perceived health benefits. It wasn't until the lawsuit of the Radium Girls against U.S. Radium Corporation that the research of radium was fully released and new health and safety guidelines were established. Radium was regarded with more caution and was used less frequently after the lawsuit. In this video, I argue that the Radium Girls suing the U.S. Radium Corporation stirred the Commonwealth of America into taking the girls' claims seriously and supporting them during their lawsuit. The blatant disregard of human life by U.S. Radium and the battle of the working class against a powerful company overpowered the gender roles and stigmatisms of women in the 1920s. As a result, the dangers of using radium became public knowledge, leading to better working conditions and health guidelines for Americans. When radium was first discovered, Marie Curie believed that it could be used in treating certain types of cancers. This finding soon snowballed into scientists and businessmen creating more and more uses of radium for general use. Radium was used in dolls, paint, toothpaste, water, foods, hair creams, and even medicines because of its supposed benefits at the time. Advertisements of radium and radium products used phrases that praised the powerful health benefits of radium and stressed the importance of such a powerful element being available to the Commonwealth. Phrases such as remarkable and miraculous, saying it has a curative power, saying that it is health-giving and is a source of healing, and that it can extend the life of humans. In order to reach a wider market, advertisements would also point out that the product was previously exclusive towards the upper class, and that now radium was so abundant that anyone could buy it, and anyone could benefit from its curative powers. There are even advertisements that try and make their products seem better than other radium products by claiming that it's more radioactive and that they use 100% real and pure radium in their products. Today we would never think of using those terms, especially when we know the dangers of radioactivity. But back then they thought it was purely a health benefit and that there were no risks at all. Demand for the magical cure-all drastically surged, and the market for radium products flourished, and large companies began monopolizing the industry. The U.S. Radium Corporation was one of the largest companies, trademarking their iconic self-luminous paint dubbed Undark. During World War I, the corporation opened multiple factories for painting dials in the radium paint, so soldiers could view their instruments at night. While radium was viewed publicly as a miracle cure-all, U.S. Radium's executives and scientists knew about the dangers of radium, wearing protective gear when they handled it. However, they refused to provide gear, training, or accommodations to their factory workers, who were all women. In the 1920s, women were not able to find work easily at other companies, and the U.S. Radium Corporation wanted women to work for them, since their smaller hands would be able to paint the small numbers and intervals on the dials the best. They trained workers to use their mouths to keep the brushes pointed while they painted the dials, telling the women that the only side effect they would have would be quote-unquote rosy cheeks. Grace Fryer, one of the workers, later said in a statement in court, quote, "Our instructors told us to point them with our lips. I think I pointed mine with my lips about 6 times to every watch dial. It didn't taste funny. It didn't have any taste, and I didn't know it was harmful." End quote. On an average day, a dial worker would make about 265 dials, and they would get paid 1 cent per dial that they finished. It wasn't until 1927 when the opinions of radium began to change. Grace Fryer, a former factory worker for U.S. Radium's dial painting factories, sued the corporation for exposing her to harmful chemicals and wanted compensation for her medical expenses. Desperate to hide the true dangers of radium, U.S. Radium Corporation altered inspector reports, disguised themselves as doctors in order to ensure that the girls were healthy, and even bribed the coroners of the deceased girls to change the official cause of death of the workers from radiation sickness to syphilis. The corporation also tried to make the court proceedings drawn out as long as possible, with hopes that the sick woman would die before the judge made a ruling. U.S. Radium's efforts to draw out the court proceedings until the girls died didn't go unnoticed. Despite her being a woman, reporters covering the lawsuit were supportive of her and her co-workers' efforts against the company. Editor Walter Lippmann of New York World Newspaper spoke out the most, but he wasn't alone. Reporters described the women as pretty, and the corporation in the court proceedings as cruel, unjust, and heartless. The women ended up winning the court case after years of fighting. Unfortunately, radiation sickness was incurable and they all passed away in the 1930s. Their fight until death for justice stirred the general public, leading to proper safety measures for dial painters and other workforces that handled radium. The women's legacy also contributed to the establishment of occupational disease labor laws and triggered regulations governing labor safety standards. To quote Walter Lippmann again, "In many aspects, the disease is surrounded by mystery, which only an expert, impartial, and national agency can remove. Clearly, this is a task for the Public Health Service." Radium became something that was recognized as powerful but deadly if used without proper safety measures. In 1933, the federal government's Public Health Service demanded safe work procedures in luminous dials and watches. Radium was still used to paint dials and used in other products well into the 1960s, but the safety measures and the public's willingness to indulge in such products changed over time. The unfortunate experiences of these young women and the efforts of scientists to discover the cause behind their illness led to the world's view of radium to shift into a new light, from being a harmless medical cure-all to a powerful but dangerous weapon.